Hi, this is Catalin, and in today's episode, we have Gina Bianchini, who's the CEO and founder of Mighty Networks and a Wall Street Journal bestselling author. Mighty Networks is a community platform that helps creators start and run communities with a very special approach called People Magic. Mighty is trusted by brands like TED, Mindbody, and Fortune, as well as top experts such as Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins, and Esther Perel. In this episode, Gina and I talk about the 9 steps to create people magic within your community. She also highlights the significance of creating valuable connections between community members, how to use and create network effects within your members and within your community, and encourages creators to focus on building communities that provide transformational experiences and outcomes for their members. This was a great episode. Gina is obviously amazing and a rock star, so I'd love for you to jump in and learn if you're a creator and you'd like to build great communities. Hi Gina, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. I was we had a little chat before we started. I was super impressed with your background and kind of your full creator mode. Is this someplace in your house, or whereabouts is the studio of yours right now?
This is in the upstairs room of my house, where I also have my closet. So what's great is if you set up a podcast studio in the same room as your closet, you really get to wear whatever you want on screen. It's very handy, very handy.
Yeah, that feels like that feels like a great setup. So Gina, thank you for joining me today.
Sure.
For people listening, they already know some intro, they already know some things about you. I'd love to just dive right into Mighty Networks.
Let's do it.
Would love to start with a bit of intro of how did you start Mighty Networks and how did you land to where you are right now, and specifically your whole approach right now around people magic. So take me through what was the initial thesis and thinking, and how did you evolve to where you're at right now, and how do you see people building communities today with people magic, and what does it mean?
Sure. So just to take a step back, Mighty Networks is my second community platform I've built to scale. So I'm really obsessed with this area, this small area of the world. But it really came from a desire on my part to live in a world where everyone on the planet is a member of not just one, but multiple amazing communities that, if we do our jobs right, really allow everybody to live to their fullest potential, have amazing experiences, meet amazing people, navigate their professional lives and what they want to do with them, navigate their personal lives and the things that they want to achieve in them. And ultimately, if we do our jobs right, people are able to not just achieve results and transformation they can't get on their own, and just is like so much easier to do in a community, but also make the best friends of their lives. And so, we have very, very ambitious goals at Mighty Networks. It is something that we are absolutely passionate about creating this world, because whether you look at anthropology or sociology or neuroscience or faith and all of these traditions going back, thousands of years, people are made for community. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's how we experience our high highs and navigate our low lows. So that is the reason Mighty Networks exists. And I am fortunate that I have had the experience with my prior platform, Ning, which we grew to 100 million people around the world, and eventually sold it before I started Mighty, when I was like, I'm not done. And more importantly, I think the software to make the kind of world I'm talking about is only going to get more and more sophisticated. And we are going to be able to do things at Mighty Networks in, 2025 that we were never able to do at Ning in 2005. And so that is how I am here with you on this call. And to make the world that I want to live in possible in the easiest, fastest way. So super ambitious, big goal. But then we've got to figure out, okay, well, how are we going to make it not just possible, but easy? So here's the thing. And this is so important for every creator, every entrepreneur, every marketer, which is this. Silicon Valley over the last 25 years has proven that there is one asset above all other assets that you want to build. And that asset is actually not an audience. It's not about content. It's something called a network effect. And the network effect basically says the following. When you bring people together in a network or a community that gets more valuable to every member with each new person who joins and contributes, you will create something that is the stickiest, that is the easiest to manage, and this is the really important piece, will grow without you because people are coming to meet and build relationships with each other, not just consume your content. Now, this network effect is how Facebook is Facebook, how LinkedIn is LinkedIn, is how Twitter is Twitter, even though Twitter is now X. This is how Instagram is Instagram, but it has never been something that has been offered to an individual creator or even an individual brand. It's been held back into, big social media platforms. And around 2010, 2011, social networking companies became social media companies. And they stopped talking about, hey, connect with all of the people that you know or may want to know, and instead go create content and go build audiences. Well, Mighty Networks exists to have that world where every person is a member of not just one, but multiple amazing communities. And the best way to do that is to create a software platform that allows every creator to have their own network effect. But here's the problem. The problem is that when I talk about network effects, everybody falls asleep. Like people's eyes glaze over. I bet your eyes are glazing over right now, even though we're on video together. So what I did with my team, we basically were like, all right, fine. We're just going to go build a network effect as a service. Like we're going to just go build this and offer it as a SaaS platform and then show people how to actually do it with People Magic and some of the things that we've come out with. And then we're just going to talk about the benefits. So we're going to talk about a network effect as creating people magic. So somebody comes into your Mighty Network and you start to see and build relationships with the most relevant, the most valuable members. We're going to build software that makes that extremely easy, taking advantage of not just phenomenal software, but also AI and how we bring that in as well. We're going to call it People Magic. We're going to talk about the benefits of People Magic, namely, extraordinary engagement, longer retention, much more value being created for your members so that they get results in transformation they can't get on their own. And guess what happens when people get results in transformation that they can't get on their own? They talk about it and they invite new people in. And when you think about all of those things compared to, say, building a social media following, having an audience, launching a newsletter, even building a community on other platforms that are not built for creating people magic, but rather were built for how do you communicate with people you already know? We're going to usher in a new era where not only more and more members are going to be joining these incredible communities, but more and more people are going to be creating them. Because the other thing about having a network effect, and all you have to do is go look at the public numbers for Meta, for Google, because I didn't mention YouTube in there, Microsoft with LinkedIn, a network effect business is extraordinarily profitable. So what we've been able to show today with Mighty Networks is that as a creator, you can launch $1 million business with 99% margins that all go directly to the bottom line because The software and, in our case, the strategies are there to help you set it up and deliver these incredible experiences that are extremely valuable to people, that are not about your content alone.
That's wonderful. That's a great start. So let me know. I'm going to restate and share some thoughts on this. Let me know if I
Sure.
got it. So
Yeah.
first thesis, I wholeheartedly agree, is community is where it's at, in the sense of this is how we are hardwired to transform and grow together. And because of this amazing world with the internet, we are all connected, but all really alone. So I feel that's such a also
Well,
not
and
being
let me just tweak
go,
one thing.
please.
The reason we're alone is because we moved from connection being the main thing to consumption being the main.
Which is how social media platforms work. Yeah.
Exactly. And as human beings, we are designed for relationships. We are designed to live in community. We are not designed to spend our day consuming media.
Yep. Love it. Love it.
It's
So
the high fructose corn syrup of connection.
yep. Yep. Which it gets fed by the advertising model, because that is the
Yeah.
business model of advertising requires this content heavy model. So where you're coming in is you're putting back the power in the hands of the creator, the community lead, or the community host, and because they can charge people to attend, or they can make money directly, then they don't have to rely on this advertising model. So I think that's amazing. And I'm curious. So this is where kind of I would love a definition of a community from your perspective, because a lot of people, I know a lot of creators I know, when they think of a community, a lot of them have done courses. So they're thinking, oh, they're still in that mindset that was like, oh, okay, so I need to post a lot of content and there's a lot of people there, and then they interact with it, and maybe they do some of those things, which some of the world is going at, and that's cohort based courses or courses, but that's not a community. So can you share what the
Oh,
community is?
I
Please,
actually disagree. I think
please,
that here's how I think about it. So
please.
on one side is the community. So that's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is, how are you able to make connections between people such that they are coming back and interacting and building relationships with each other, not just you. Then there is how you generate revenue from that community. So that it can be courses, that can be paid memberships, that can be challenges, and that can be events. And there's, others, consulting, coaching, merchandise, speaking, all the other things that we can monetize as creators. But fundamentally, what I think is so interesting is that, number one, yes, we can call them cohort courses, but there is not a content course out there that is designed with, like, I create a bunch of content, I structure it, and we've built that into Mighty. But 99% of courses that actually get people to take them, not just buy them, have created over the past decade a companion Facebook group, or a companion Slack team, or a companion Mighty Network, or a companion WhatsApp, and so, or a companion Discord. So even when we're talking about courses, the reality is that to get anybody to do anything,
You still need a community layer.
makes it easier. So that's where it's like, I'm just gonna fold courses into community and think about courses as yet another way to monetize or generate revenue from building out that network effect. So for me, I get very skeptical whenever I'm listening to someone talk about a community that's really an audience. And what does it sound like? Well, my community is an audience if people are talking back to me and the relationship is with me and them, and I am not actually setting up a way for them to meet each other. That to me is, like, for a lot of people, the aha moment. And that's the difference between having a not so valuable business and a really valuable business. And a really valuable business at smaller numbers than the numbers you have to have with an audience if you want to make any money. But also, and I think this is actually more important, if you want to have an impact. If you want to have an impact, setting up the framework for people to build relationships with each other on the path to results that they can't get on their own around something that they really want to accomplish, or the way I think about it, and I'm sure we'll get to this with People Magic Profit and kind of the 9 simple steps to take full advantage of building your own network effect or building people magic, is pick a person in a transition. Every business, I believe, over the next 3 years is going to realize that trying to pick your niche or find your niche is so much harder to do than a much more simple and straightforward, really foolproof way of thinking about your business and expertise, which is how are you helping someone who is in a transition? And when you start with somebody who's in a transition, everything gets easier in terms of you being able to have an impact on them, that it's not about consuming your content. It's actually about getting them into experiences and communities alongside other people such that they're able to start to apply that framework in their lives. And I just think, again, I think we're just going to unlearn these muscles and build new ones around, okay, wait a second. If I create this network effect, I'm going to build something so much more valuable. I'm going to do less work. I'm going to actually help people achieve things that they will pay for. And it's a heck of a lot more fun. Now, the transition we're in is that most people have been grinding it out for so long as creators, as experts. And they've been told you have to post 5 or 6 times a day on every platform that you want to have any kind of following. And you need to answer all of your DMs. And then on top of that, you have to also comment on people's comments, on other people's posts, if you want to actually create the reciprocity that can exist in a community. And people don't believe that it is as easy as I'm saying. My biggest challenge in bringing a network effect to experts and creators, and that's something we've got to do in order to live in this world where everyone opens their phone and sees just the different parts of themselves and the different things they're interested in alongside amazing people on the same path. So that's one of the most interesting things that I wake up and think about as a challenge, is how do we actually help people see that it really isn't as hard, and no one should be grinding as hard as that we're all kind of grinding right now. And we're grinding to make those big platforms a lot of money because they have the network effect, and they have taught an entire generation of people that the way they benefit from social media is by building the less valuable thing that they have no control over and they don't own. It's kind of stupid.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Doesn't mean that I'm not building content every day to basically but my joke is I'm building content every day so that more and more people don't have to build content every day and can instead be thinking about, how am I building relationships between people and how am I making it as valuable as possible?
Yeah, that's wonderful. So you're saying that there's a way for creators to take back power into not having to grind the hamster wheel and be able to have a deeper relationship with 1,000 people from their following, or 500 or 5,000, in a way that if they step back from this top-down model of I need to do it, I need to teach it, and allow them to connect with each other, that's where the power gets created, and the effort is much easier. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. That is exactly what I'm saying. And look, if you love teaching, doesn't mean you stop teaching. You just make sure that you're at the end of every lesson, it's okay, how am I building this so that someone takes an action, but even better, that they have a group of people that they can take an action with. What does that look like?
Yep.
What does that look like? What does that feel like? It's it's a flip that once you make it, everything gets easier.
So let's go into the 9 simple steps, which is a great, and I do have, there's something came into my mind. There's a woman that's an influencer, has about 1 million followers, just came to mind. Maybe we can
Sure.
have her as an example after you share the 9
Yeah.
steps. But she was just talking to me the other week about creating a community. She has a very specific idea. Maybe you can use her as an example to walk through, but I'd
Right.
love to, if you can share, is it that 9 steps to create what you call people magic, or what were the 9 steps for, if you can share?
The 9 steps are to put yourself on a path to building a community so valuable that you can charge for it, and so well designed it essentially runs itself. So creating people magic, it's partially the software, but just like an airplane, you can have the greatest airplane in the world, but you also have to kind of know how to fly it and
Yep.
like how to set it up. So maybe at some point in the future, we're going to get to a point where it's like, AI is setting up the most amazing communities, on that behalf of people who want to be members of those communities. We're not there yet. And also, I think that would be a lot less fun. So we do use AI in some specific ways to make what I'm about to describe so much easier to do. But here are the 9 steps. Number 1, identify your ideal member. These are the people who want and need your community the most right now. And I'll just use community through all of this, kind of going back to community is it's the core, and then there are multiple ways of monetizing your community: courses, memberships, challenges, events, big 4. Okay. So here's the easiest thing in the world. I mentioned it before, but the best way to find your ideal member is not to go and like go on a journey to find your niche and what your niche is. It is literally pick a person in a transition. So that might be someone who's graduating from college. That might be somebody who's starting their first job. That might be somebody who's leveling up to be a manager for the first time. That might be somebody who is a brand new entrepreneur. That might be somebody who is tackling their first small business. That might be somebody, if we shift into personal, who wants to learn golf, who wants to explore and begin to master an interest or a passion or a goal. It might be something related to health and wellness. Any of these things, if you start with, I want to start, like anybody could benefit from my framework as an expert, that is not going to work, because while you could do that, first of all, you're making your life a lot harder. And well, I'll get to this in a second. It's not how people see themselves in what you're creating. So number 1, pick somebody in a transition. And this has been, we've been really fortunate with this new podcast that we launched, and really starting with these nine pieces. This has been a home run. The people that are like flipping the switch and choosing a transition, they are getting in, starting a new community, starting courses, and literally instantly making money. So this is really, really powerful. Okay, so we've got our ideal member. Step 2, you got to like, what's in it for them? And I like to think about results and transformation or benefits as their best year ever. So how do you take an ideal member or that person going through a transition and paint a picture of what does their best year ever look like? So what does their best year ever look like if they're a first-time engineering manager? Or what does their best year look like if they are just had their first kid, or they just got married and have a blended family? Thinking about their best year ever gives you the most fun basis for thinking about results and transformation, plus adding some memorable details. It makes it more fun for you. It makes it more fun for the people that you're going to want to bring into your community. All right, so that's step 2. And then step 3 is just literally adding step 1 and step 2 together into your pitch. I call it your big purpose. The big purpose is the motivation for your members. Note, The big purpose is the motivation for your members to join your community. It's not the motivation for you to have started your community, unless they're the same thing. So all the big purpose is, it's a specific formula because this is how our brains work. And it's this: I or we bring together your ideal member. Just Mad Libs style that. Your ideal member, comma, so that we can have our best year ever. And whatever those things are that you put into the best year ever. You have that sentence, you can start going to pitch your founding members. Now get this. So cool. When we are listening, when somebody is like giving us a new idea of something, and when we're listening, every human being is listening for, is this for me or not for me? And when you can say I or we bring together and then who it is, they can picture instantaneously, is this for me? I'm interested. If it's not for me, they're like, okay, still, I might know that person. So either way, you've engaged the person that you're sharing your big purpose with. And the way that our brains are wired are absolutely so that we can, that's what am I going to get for it? Or if it's for somebody else, they're like, what are they going to get for it? And because people love people, we love hearing about people that and what they're going to get for their best year ever, whether it's relevant to us or not. It's fun. And so now you've got your pitch. And so one of the biggest questions I hear, and you've probably heard as well, is why are people going to join? How do I find my first members? And, you know, there's all these things out there with all these gurus that are about like, oh, I got to have a paid ad funnel and I got to have my audience and email list and lead magnets and all this stuff. Like, sure, you can layer those on later, but imagine you can just start talking to people about something really, really compelling, which is I bring together kids who just graduated from college to find I'm making stuff up on the fly, and it's like right before lunch, so I'm not at my best, but like to find apprentice programs so that we can begin our careers with the most support, with a phenomenal job that makes us more money our first year out of college than we ever imagined, and meet killer people who are on the same path of an apprenticeship in X, Y, or Z. So it doesn't have to be short and sweet, because once you've got somebody's attention, you have a little bit more room to be able to share their best, what would that person's best year ever be? So those are the first three things, and they're all you need. Once you have those, you can start talking to people. And when you can start talking to people, that's all you need. Then what's the second question that anybody who's listening to this, and by the way, thank you for letting me give a lot more detail here as to what these nine steps are to creating people magic profit. Well, what am I actually going to offer in my community? What are people going to get for it? And this is where, again, the gurus, everybody, they're going to try to tell you and teach you, you have to have bonus content. It's all about, the extra courses that you teach or the guides that you build. And here's the thing. It doesn't mean you can't do those things, but there's something even easier. Oh, another one is, you have to go live every single week. Well, you can go live if you want, but here are the three things I can guarantee will deliver engagement in your community. Number one, monthly themes. And what do monthly themes do? They provide novelty to a community and invite people, when done well, to share their stories, their experiences, and their ideas, not advice. Advice shuts down conversations in a community. It just doesn't work very well. And like you as a host get annoyed because a lot of times the advice isn't very good. But also it's like, if anybody's ever been in a relationship with somebody and you go to complain to your friends about like your partner and they're like, oh my God, you should totally break up with them. And then you don't. And then it's like really awkward. To me, that's advice. So What's so much better is to create monthly themes that allow your members to share their stories, their experiences, and their ideas. And when you just kind of get to the end of that monthly theme, well, guess what? Instead of having the lull and then you're like, like, how do I provide value for my community? And I should launch a new course or build a new guide over the weekend or whatever it might be, or write 25 more emails. Instead, you got a new theme. And it starts the clock all over again with bringing your members together. And it's novel. It's exciting. It's another way to just sort of like, okay, new month, new theme, let's go. So that's monthly theme. So that's part 4 or step 4.
Yep. And that monthly theme, just a clarification there, should be aligned with the transition we're helping people make. So if we're helping people get a job as a graphic designer,
exactly.
okay, got it.
All
So
the
we're
monthly themes ladder up
supporting the outcome we're trying to get
to
people
that big purpose. Yes.
Love it. Love it. So what's step 5?
5 is a weekly calendar. So if monthly themes are there for novelty, the weekly calendar is there for stability and consistency. And when you have stability and consistency, you are creating a habit for your members. And as you create a habit for your members, you are also creating a habit for you. So I like to recommend just 2 things a week. And that might be a question of a week. It might be that live stream of a week. If you like to live stream and it's easy for you to do, like bringing your members together in a live stream once a week, that could work great. It also might be a give ask, meaning that you basically put out the call once a week on the same day at the same time. That's the key with a weekly calendar, because then even if somebody's not coming back, if you do that for 4 weeks in a row and they get a notification on their phone that you are either going live and it's Tuesday at 9 a.m. or it's the give ask at Wednesday at 4 p.m., whatever that might be, then they build the habit. You get more credit and you get more leverage from that action, from that content. So I love give ask because what's so cool about it is it sets the culture of your community to be something where I show up and I'm here, I've got something to give and I've got something to ask. Because nobody likes to be in a community where you show up and it's like everybody's selling something. And like anybody who thinks that you're showing up in a community and the give is like your free whatever, like no, like think about what you are giving that is in context to that transition, that is first and foremost about you as a person. And then the authentic asks, those are great too. So anyways, we have a whole list of potential weekly calendar, events or items or things that you can do, from like the super easy to like the more involved. And you can get that at mightynetworks.com/people magic. I just had to do that because I had a sweet microphone. So anyways,
we'll also have that in the link because I'm sure there's going to be a more detailed version for people to go through.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So weekly calendar, that's for consistency and stability. And then finally, daily polls and questions. Now, this is where people freak out because they're like, "Oh my God, Gina."
Is that number 6? Daily polls and questions.
This is number 6. Daily polls and questions. So I get especially when I first started teaching this, people would be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I need to ask. I need to figure out 365 questions." So first of all, frequent questions, but here's the thing with AI. And like, for example, we've built into Mighty Networks an infinite question engine. So you have a never ending list of questions that you can choose from. But most importantly, these are questions that are designed to get your members talking to each other. So this is not, "Hey, what'd you think of that article?" This is a specific question poll formula that has an unlocking phrase, which is like, there's probably, I think, like 20 of them. That's like, "What's the first?" Or "What's the last?" Or "What's your favorite?" And it's designed for somebody to be able to answer that question in less than 15 seconds. So they're motivated to answer it. And then they start talking to each other in the comments of the question. It is it happens. It is the most beautiful thing in the world. Anyways, so
Love it.
I just described 3 things. You set those 3 things up. And first of all, you can set them up and go away because your members will take and make these things run. Monthly themes, weekly calendar, daily polls and questions, even easier. You can schedule those in advance.
Yep.
Final 3 things. Because now we've got, okay, who's this for and why would they join? What are we going to do together? And then the final 3 things are, and how am I going to sell it? How am I going to sell it? So offer, launch, magical first experience are the final 3 things. The offer is simply taking the first 6 parts, packaging them up together, and picking a price that reflects 3 R's. What are the results that your members are like? What is the value of the results that your members are going to get for being a part of this community? So for example, if they are a first-time engineering manager and they're actually able to get really good at their job, well, they're probably going to get promoted. And if they get promoted, then the value of your community and not just the framework you've created for them, but also the stories, experiences, and ideas of other members, that could be worth
$10,000 more a
$100,000
year or whatever. Yeah. Or
exactly.
half a million or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. So don't try to anchor on like, oh, what's the lowest price I could charge, or is this the price of a cup of coffee? Like really, especially for your expertise and what you're setting up for people. So think about results. The second one is replacement. What are you replacing? So what would that person be investing to become a great engineering manager that what you are building will replace? So that could be a coach, that could be, or, again, like instead of just a one-on-one coach, you actually have one-on-one coaching and a group and, people who are going to go through their careers together, which is a lot more valuable than whatever you do in a coaching session. So it might be a coach, it might be books, it might be conferences, it might be, the list goes on and on. And then finally is respect. So people pay attention for progress and they pay attention to what they pay for, which means they're more likely to get results and progress if they're paying because they'll be paying attention. So just think about the things that you value. You're like, okay, well, I paid X for this. I'm going to enjoy it. And the reality is that people, they just don't pay attention for free. And this is a potentially provocative comment, but going back in the history of time, we've always paid for community. We've paid dues, we've tithed, we have been members of and paid for leagues and teams and belong to service organizations. We've always paid because that's how you make something that's awesome. So respect is what is a price that your members are going to respect. And then what is also a price that you're going to be motivated to and feel really good about, like creating something awesome, helping people create their best year ever. So finding a price. So that's where it's like the whole, Patreon model of like, just pay me $5 to support me. Well, first of all, that's not a really sustainable model because it's still all the onus is on you. As the creator or as the expert. You want to create something where it's like, like our average price that creators on Mighty Networks charges is $48 a month, or over $500 a year. And then you can just back into why that is. Well, when you are navigating a transition with people on the same path, it's a lot more valuable. It's not it's not coming out of your streaming budget. It's coming out of your important budget.
Yep.
And that, I think, is something that takes people a little bit to understand. Launch, we got a specific launch formula. 2 weeks to a member launch event that happens to just the people who are going to, who have joined. And finally, and this I think is just something that so many people, when they're trying to just jerry-rig together, a course platform in one place, a Slack somewhere else, a Zoom, and, then like a new course platform, a new community thing, and a free community and paid and all this stuff. you got to have a magical first experience. It's something that we've invested a tremendous amount of time, energy, and effort into at Mighty because it is so important. And also, life's too short. So, one of the things that when you're thinking about creating a magical first experience for your members, there's this norm that people do where they start with like the rules, and the rules have gotten to be really like weirdly generic, but also not that helpful. Like don't murder people, or like don't, be mean. It's like, yeah, no shit. Like don't be mean.
Common
But
sense stuff. Yeah.
yeah, so instead I like to think about it as it's not about the mechanics, it's about the value. Why did they join? And how do you create a first experience that reinforces the person's reason? Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm here because of the things that I joined for. So that is the magical first experience. So we just went through all 9 things. It was a lot.
Yeah. So Gina, that's
we nailed it.
So first of all, congrats for you to be able to sustain that. That was a long. I didn't want to interrupt you because I feel, even though I had a lot of questions, I feel what you delivered was much more comprehensive and with a lot more passion and nuance than trying to pick pieces together. So I'm very happy we did that. With the 2 minutes we have left, here's what I would like to do. I'd like to recap the steps and a quick reaction I had to them.
Great.
And then I would love to re-clarify for people listening. So we're going to have the link for them to actually go through, and there's going to be a full guide for this to happen. But I think this is really good. So here's the 9 steps. I did identify the ideal member and the transition, the X to Y you're helping them go through. Step 2, identify the value proposition, what's in it for them, what are the benefits, and how does that work for them. Step 3,
their best year ever.
In the best year ever. Okay, great. So define a vision of how their life looks like now that they've achieved point B. Great. Step 3 is put them together in a statement. I bring ideal members together so that they can have whatever their best year ever looks like. Great. Step 4 is community purpose. Can you restate step?
Step 4 is monthly themes. We're deep into, okay, how do I go deliver that big purpose?
Monthly themes, weekly calendars, daily polls and questions. That's 4, 5, 6.
Yep.
Got it. 7 is the offer, the pricing. Step 8 was the launch plan, and step 9, the magical first experience. So
you got it.
Very, very comprehensive. Thank you for your patience with me as well.
No, it's great.
Thank you for your enthusiasm with all of this. I will have this link in bio for people to go look. You do have to go because I want to be respectful of your time as well. But I'm very, very grateful this happened. And for people that want to go deeper, they can go and try out the platform. We're using it right now for a couple of our creators, and it's really good. So Gina, thank you so much. And
it's my pleasure.
Anything you want to leave people with as an ending statement or as a conclusion? If you want to leave any message for creators thinking and starting their own communities.
Well, certainly I would leave you with Mighty Networks is awesome. But also this is important work. If you are considering exploring building a community, first of all, these techniques and building towards a network effect will give you such a standout set of results versus anything else you can do. So just thank you.
Super. I love it. And I think it brings power back in the hands of creator like very few things do. Because a lot of other things creators do create dependency on them needing to post, needing to things, which leads to burnout, which leads to a lot of bad things. So I think this is super good and super important work. Thank you, Gina. Thank you for your time and your wonderful sharing, and have a good rest of your day. Talk soon. And thank you everybody for watching and listening. Thank you.
Bye.